Good morning. I'm back again with another video. Welcome to my channel. I'm walking Kobe. Say good morning, Kobe. Kobe, say good morning. He's being a brat lately. Being very reactive to other dogs, and it's just annoying. I'm gonna have to focus on training. But anyhow, today's video, I'm wanting to talk about sorry about that. Yeah, today's video I want to talk about tying in everything that I had been talking about before, parental alienation, narcissistic abuse, and all of that, and then how it relates to everything that's happening right now in my life. So, when I was alienated from my kids back home in Canada, and I said I had started a relationship with somebody in the United States here, in the U.S., and then went, trying to get away from that abusive situation that continued even after he had my children. Of course, I ran into the arms of a knight in shining armor and someone who was so healthy and safe. Right, yeah, absolutely not. I totally ran into a nightmare. My grandmother always had this saying, and my grandmother is probably the only person in my life that ever showed me unconditional love. Literally, she just was amazing. I use all of that stuff that she gave me before she passed away as like strength to keep going. So she still lives within me, but she used to have this saying, my background were Guyanese, and so I'll have to say it in the exact way that she used to say it to me, but she would say, you, if you make yourself grass, horse will eat you. And what that meant was, if you make yourself grass, if you put yourself in a vulnerable situation with people, they're going to take advantage of that, always. Well, usually, and of course, that's what happened, I made myself vulnerable by moving my entire life to a place that I didn't know, with a person I really didn't know, because we lived in two different countries, and I met him. The way I met him was I met him online, and that's another thing I'll talk about at some point about, online dating. I would never do that again. I'll never go on any kind of app or anything like that to meet anybody, because people don't show up as themselves. Their representatives show up online. I mean, in person too, but it's easier to filter through that in person. Online, you don't know who the hell you're meeting. Anybody can say anything, and especially in today's age, I definitely would never trust it. But yeah, moved my entire life there, and in short order, things went disastrously wrong. But by that time, my pride was in the way, because, there were many people who warned me and said, what are you doing? Don't do that. And I didn't listen. And so when things went haywire, or started to go haywire, I didn't listen at all. Yeah, so anyhow, after moving to Kansas City, I moved there in 2004, and that was around the time where I was totally being estranged from my children, and things had really taken ahead. Like there was just so much chaos going on, and I was escaping from it. And that's, again, another thing that I tend to do a lot, is run away from situations once it gets too hectic, right? And anyhow, and so I went to Kansas City 2004, late 2004. By April of that next year, 2005, I was married. And by February of the following year, I had a baby. And so now I'm married with a child. I'm living in Kansas City. And things obviously, anybody, it just wasn't working out well. And I wanted to leave. And that's when I found out that it wasn't that easy to just up and leave from, so many different barriers. First of all, I was married. I had a child, and I was from another country. I was undocumented. There were so many things. And this was in 2000. And by the time I wanted to leave and separate, it was probably about 2007. And it is 2005. And so that is just briefly what I'll say about, hello, good morning, about taking things for granted, putting yourself in vulnerable situations. And I at the time did not understand the laws, the immigration laws, and all the ways and things that would prevent me from being able to separate myself from a very toxic situation. But more importantly, I feel that there were systems and people who failed me. Some of it was intentional. Some of it was just systemic. But all of it, I feel people just don't ever talk about at all. And that's why I created this platform, not just started doing what I'm doing, because it wasn't just for me and my healing and for me to talk about it, because, there was never a safe space for me to just talk about anything. So this is now my safe space where I talk about stuff, because I wasn't able to trust people or, anything, to be honest with you. Nothing worked for me besides myself. I literally had to save myself, which is fine. But I created this and I'm doing this because there was nowhere. And so I wanted if somebody ever is going through anything similar, I want them or you to know that you're not alone at all. And the more I talk about it, the more I see that I'm not alone. There are a lot of people navigating the same waters, but they just don't have the tools, or they don't have the strength, or they haven't gotten to a place where they're ready to talk about it or look for help about it or whatever it is. So, if anything I'm saying helps anybody, I'm happy to do it. And so, yeah, I think let me stop for a second. Okay, sorry, nature called. I had to deal with my dog, but yeah. So I'm gonna use the space to talk about my experiences. I spent several years here in the United States undocumented, and intentionally I was kept undocumented. And and that journey was crazy, and even resulted in an ICE detention, which I'll talk about at some point as well. Just, it was crazy. But I just came out of crazy, literally. It's been a week of me not being involved in absolute crazy, to the point where it doesn't feel real almost, but I'm working on it. Anyhow, thanks for listening. And if you're interested in hearing more, of course, subscribe and like. Have a great day.